I'd built my logistics company from nothing, and after 40 years the closing document sat before me. $74 million. My hands trembled as I signed the final page. Sarah, my only daughter, had insisted we celebrate at Le Bernardin that evening. "Just family," she'd said, her voice unusually sweet. But when the waiter caught my sleeve near the restroom and whispered those 7 words that changed everything, I realized my greatest business deal might also be my last night alive. The pen felt heavier than it should have as I signed my name for the final time. Ernest William Fitzgerald. 40 years of my life condensed into that signature, transforming decades of sweat and sacrifice into $74 million. The lawyers shook hands, the buyers smiled, and just like that, Fitzgerald Logistics was no longer mine. I sat in my office that evening surrounded by boxes and memories. The walls still held the faint outlines where pictures once hung. A photo of Margaret and me at our wedding. Sarah's first day of kindergarten. The ribbon-cutting ceremony when we opened our 10th distribution center. Each ghost of a frame told a story, and every story led to this moment. Starting the company in my garage at 25 had seemed like madness to everyone except Margaret. She'd believed in me when I had nothing but a rusty truck and a dream. While I worked 18-hour days building routes, negotiating contracts, and sleeping in warehouse break rooms, she raised Sarah alone. She never complained, not once. Even when I missed Sarah's school plays, her soccer games, her high school graduation speech because of emergency shipments or client crises. "Make it worth something, Ernie," Margaret would say, touching my face when I'd stumble home at 3 a.m. "Make all this sacrifice mean something." 5 years ago, when the cancer took her, I held her hand in that sterile hospital room and made her a promise. "I'll take care of our girl," I'd whispered as her breathing grew shallow. "I'll make sure Sarah never wants for anything." Margaret's eyes still bright despite the pain had found mine. "Not just money, Ernie. Take care of her heart, too." I'd failed at that promise in ways I was only beginning to understand. Sarah had been Daddy's little girl once. After college, she'd joined the company's accounting department, eager to learn the business from the ground up. She'd arrive early, stay late, and ask questions that showed she understood more than just numbers. She saw the heart of what we'd built. Employees loved her. Clients trusted her. I'd been grooming her to take over someday to carry on the Fitzgerald legacy. Then Derek entered our lives. She'd met him at a charity fundraiser 2 years ago. Derek Matthews presented himself as a successful real estate developer, all smooth words and expensive suits. He pursued Sarah with the kind of intensity that should have been a warning. Flowers every day, surprise trips, grand gestures that seemed romantic but felt calculated in hindsight. They married within 6 months. I'd paid for a wedding that cost more than I'd made in my first 5 years of business. Sarah glowed that day, radiant in her mother's altered wedding dress. Derek's smile never quite reached his eyes, but I'd dismissed my unease as typical father-of-the-bride anxiety. After the wedding, changes came slowly like water eroding stone. Sarah started dressing differently. Designer labels replaced her practical wardrobe. She traded her Honda for a Mercedes. Small requests for money became larger ones. $10,000 for a new kitchen. $20,000 for Derek's investment opportunity. $50,000 for a down payment on a house they couldn't afford. "Derek says we need to project success to achieve success." She'd explain, not quite meeting my eyes. The gratitude I'd always seen in my daughter faded, replaced by expectation. She stopped asking and started demanding, stopped saying please and barely remembered thank you. Derek's influence spread through her like poison, slow and insidious. My CFO, Robert Chen, had tried to warn me 3 months ago. We'd been reviewing quarterly reports when he'd cleared his throat, that nervous gesture that meant bad news was coming. "Ernest, I need to show you something." He'd pulled up account records on his laptop. These transactions from the department Sarah manages. They're unusual. Transfers just below the threshold that required additional approval. Vendor payments to companies that existed only on paper. Creative accounting that wasn't quite illegal, but definitely wasn't ethical. The amounts were significant, but not enough to derail the sale of the company. She's probably just covering wedding expenses. I'd said not wanting to see what was right in front of me. Maybe the new house needs more work than they thought. Robert's expression had been carefully neutral. Maybe. But Ernest, some of these patterns... Leave it, I'd interrupted. After the sale goes through, none of this will matter. I'll be retired, and Sarah will have her trust fund. Everything will work out. The sale process had consumed 9 months of my life. 3 potential buyers, each with their own teams of lawyers and accountants. Due diligence that examined every contract, every employee file, every financial transaction for the past decade. I'd answered the same questions hundreds of times, provided thousands of documents, and negotiated points so minor they seemed absurd. But it was worth it. $74 million would secure not just my future, but Sarah's as well. I'd already worked out the details with my estate attorney. Trusts that would provide for her while protecting the principal from poor decisions or predatory influences. Charitable donations to honor Margaret's memory. Enough left over for me to travel, maybe find companionship again. The plan was simple. Take a year to travel. Visit the places Margaret and I had always talked about but never seen. Then settle somewhere quiet, maybe near the ocean. Find peace in the life I'd been too busy to live. That morning, Sarah had called just as I was getting dressed. Her voice bubbled with an excitement I hadn't heard in months. Dad, did everything go through? Is it official? Signed and sealed, I'd confirmed. Money transfers Monday. This is incredible. We have to celebrate properly. Derek made reservations at Le Bernardin for tonight. 7 o'clock. Just the 3 of us like a family should be. Something in her tone made me pause. Too bright, too eager, like she was reading from a script. That's an expensive place, sweetheart. You sure, Derek? Dad, please. Her voice sharpened, then softened again. You just sold your company for $74 million. You deserve this. We want to celebrate with you. After everything you've sacrificed, everything you've done for us. The words were right, but the melody was off. Still, exhaustion and emotion clouded my judgment. My little girl wanted to celebrate my success. How could I say no? All right, 7 o'clock. Perfect and Dad. Wear that navy suit I got you for Christmas. You look so distinguished in it. After hanging up, I'd moved to my bedroom safe to retrieve my watch, a Rolex Margaret had given me for our 20th anniversary. The safe door was closed. The lock engaged everything apparently normal. But when I opened it, something felt wrong. My documents were all there. Will insurance policies, deeds, investment records, nothing missing. Yet, as I lifted them examining each folder, I noticed subtle differences. The will had a crease that hadn't been there before. The insurance papers were in a slightly different order. Someone had photographed these documents, handling them carefully, but not carefully enough. My hands shook as the implications hit me. Only 3 people knew the safe combination: me, my lawyer, and Sarah. I'd given her access years ago in case something happened to me. Trust built on love and blood. Standing there holding evidence that someone had been studying my estate plans, planning something around my death, I felt Margaret's absence like a physical blow. She would have seen this coming. She would have protected us both. But I was alone now with a celebration dinner in 5 hours, and the growing certainty that my daughter and her husband had plans for my money that didn't include waiting for me to die naturally. Le Bernardin occupied the top floor of the Equitable building, its windows offering panoramic views of the city I'd helped build, with 40 years of trucking routes and warehouse deals. The maitre d' greeted Derek by name, which should have been impossible given the restaurant's 3-month waiting list and price point that would bankrupt most monthly salaries. "Mr. Matthews, wonderful to see you again. Your usual table is ready." Usual table, at a place where appetizers cost more than most families spent on groceries for a week. Sarah wore a black Valentino dress I'd never seen before, paired with diamond earrings that caught the light like small stars. Her makeup was flawless, professionally done. The transformation from my practical daughter, who once wore jeans to board meetings, was complete. She looked like money. Old money. The kind of money she'd never grown up with but apparently felt entitled to now. Derek stood as we approached, his handshake firm, but his palm slightly damp. His charcoal Armani suit fit perfectly tailored to hide the soft middle that came from too many expensive dinners and not enough honest work. His smile was all teeth, no warmth. "Ernest, the man of the hour. How does it feel to be officially retired?" "Strange," I admitted, taking my seat. "Like I've forgotten something important." Sarah laughed, a tinkling sound that didn't match the tension in her shoulders. "You'll get used to it, Dad. Now you can finally relax." A sommelier appeared instantly, as if summoned by Derek's slight nod. "The Chateau Petrus, 1982, as requested, Mr. Matthews. $3,000. I knew because I'd once lost a client who'd ordered that same bottle to seal a deal I couldn't match. Derek didn't even glance at me before nodding approval. "Only the best for my father-in-law's special day," he said, watching the ceremonial uncorking with satisfaction. The wine poured like liquid rubies into crystal glasses that probably cost more than my first truck payment. Sarah immediately lifted her glass toward mine. "To new beginnings," she said, her eyes fixed on my face with an intensity that made my skin crawl. We clinked glasses, the crystal singing a pure note that felt like a warning. I pretended to sip, letting the wine barely touch my lips. It tasted like earth and age and money. "So, Ernest." Derek leaned forward, his elbows on the table in a breach of etiquette that would have made Margaret cringe. 74 million. That's quite a number. How does it feel to have that kind of liquidity? No one who'd earned their own money talked about it so crudely. Real wealth whispered. It never shouted. "It doesn't feel like anything yet," I said carefully. "Just numbers on paper until the transfer clears." "But you have access to bridge funding, surely lines of credit against the sale." Sarah's hand moved to her phone, tapping something quickly before setting it face down. A message to someone. Her wedding ring caught the light as she reached for the wine bottle. "Let's not talk business tonight," she said, refilling my glass despite it being nearly full. "This is about celebrating family." The waiter arrived with our first course. Oysters for Derek, foie gras for Sarah, a simple salad for me. My stomach churned with more than hunger. "You're not eating much, Dad." Sarah pushed my wine glass closer to my hand. "At least enjoy the wine. When will we have another chance to drink something this special?" Derek's questions continued, each one more specific than the last. He knew about the escrow terms, the tax implications, even the specific clauses about earn-out provisions that I'd only discussed with my legal team. Information that should have been confidential, protected by attorney-client privilege. "How did you know about the earn-out structure?" I asked, watching his face carefully. A flicker of panic crossed his features before his salesman's smile returned. "Oh, you must have mentioned it. You know how these big deals are so many details they blur together." I'd never mentioned it, I was certain. Sarah's nervous energy increased as the meal progressed. She checked her phone constantly, each buzz making her jump slightly. Her eyes darted between Derek and my wine glass with increasing frequency. She'd refilled it 3 times now, despite my protests. "I really shouldn't," I said, as she lifted the bottle again. "Medication and all." "One night won't hurt," she insisted, her voice taking on an edge. "Please, Dad, do it for me, to celebrate properly." The main courses arrived. Lobster for Sarah, Wagyu beef for Derek, Dover, sole for me. Each plate was a work of art, but I had no appetite. The conversation felt like an interrogation disguised as celebration. "What are your plans for the estate?" Derek asked, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. "That's a lot of house for one person." "I haven't decided. Sarah and I were thinking," he continued as if I hadn't spoken. "Family should stick together, especially as people get older. Isolation can be dangerous. The mind starts to slip without stimulation." Sarah nodded eagerly. "We worry about you, Dad. In that big house all alone. What if something happened? What if you fell? Had an episode. I kept my voice level. "I'm 65, not 95. "Of course," Derek said smoothly. "But planning for the future is wise. Having family close by to help make decisions, manage affairs. It's the responsible thing to do." My phone buzzed. James Patterson, my lawyer. The display showed urgent. "Excuse me," I said, standing. "I need to take this." Sarah's face went white. "Can't it wait? We're having such a nice time." "Legal matter about the escrow. It'll just be a moment." As I walked toward the restaurant's quiet alcove, I heard the scrape of chairs behind me. In the reflection of a mirror, I saw Sarah lean across the table, whispering urgently to Derek. He shook his head, gestured toward my wine glass. James's voice was tense when I answered. "Ernest, we have a problem. Someone's been calling the escrow company claiming to be your representative, asking about early disbursement procedures. They had information they shouldn't have. Details about your personal accounts." My blood ran cold. "Who?" "They wouldn't say. But Ernest, be careful. Something's not right." I was about to respond when a hand touched my sleeve. A young waiter barely out of college stood beside me. His face was pale, and he kept glancing back toward the dining room. "Sir," he whispered, his voice shaking. "I shouldn't. But my grandfather. The same thing happened." "What are you talking about?" He leaned closer, his words barely audible. "Your daughter. While you were reading the menu, I saw her pour something into your wine glass. White powder. She was careful, but I saw it." The phone slipped in my suddenly sweaty hand. "Are you certain? My grandfather died last year. His family, they used the same thing. Made it look like a heart attack. Please, sir, don't drink the wine." He disappeared back into the kitchen before I could ask more questions. I stood there, phone forgotten, processing what I'd just learned. My daughter, my Sarah. The little girl who'd cried when we had to put down her goldfish was trying to poison me. "Ernest," James's voice from the phone. "You still there?" "I'll call you back." I managed ending the call. I returned to the table, my mind racing, but my face carefully neutral. Derek was holding my wine glass up to the light, examining it like a jeweler studying a gem. When he saw me approaching, he set it down precisely in front of my seat. "Everything all right?" he asked, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Just a technical detail," I said, sitting down. "Nothing important." Sarah's smile was too wide, too bright. "Good. Now you can finish your wine. We want to make a toast." I looked at the glass in front of me, the beautiful poison waiting to stop my heart, and made a decision that would either save my life or end it. Sometimes in business, you had to take calculated risks. This would be my last and most important one. My hand trembled slightly as I reached for the glass. Not from fear, but from the effort of controlling my rage. 40 years of negotiating with corrupt union bosses and cutthroat competitors had taught me to hide my emotions, to never show my hand until the deal was done. This was just another negotiation with my life as the stakes. "Actually," I said, setting the glass down and pressing my hand to my stomach. "All this rich food. I'm not 25 anymore. Need to visit the restroom." Sarah's eyes widened. "But the toast!" "When I get back, I promised, standing slowly, playing the part of the aging man they wanted me to be. "Order another bottle. The night's still young." As I rose, I deliberately knocked my napkin to the floor. Bending to retrieve it, I swept my arm across the table in a clumsy arc that would have embarrassed me in any other circumstance. My wine glass tipped, catching Sarah's, the two glasses spinning in a dance of crystal and candlelight. Oh, how clumsy of me. I steadied both glasses, my hands moving with the muscle memory of 1,000 warehouse accidents prevented. In the confusion of reaching for napkins, signaling waiters Derek's exasperated cursing, I completed the switch. My poisoned glass now sat in front of Sarah's place setting. "No harm done," the waiter said, appearing with fresh napkins. "Happens all the time." I shuffled toward the restroom, letting my shoulders slump, adding a slight shuffle to my gait. Behind me, I heard Derek's voice, low and angry. "Get control of yourself. We're so close." In the bathroom, I locked myself in a stall and called Robert on his personal cell. "It's happening tonight," I said without preamble. "Sarah and Derek. They poisoned my wine." "Jesus Christ, Ernest, where are you?" Le Bernardin. I switched glasses with Sarah. "Call Detective Monica Hartley, downtown precinct. Tell her what I told you about the accounts. And Robert, have her bring an ambulance." "An ambulance, but you said you switched." "Trust me." Back at the table, they'd ordered dessert. Sarah's untouched wine glass sat like a landmine between us. She kept glancing at it, then at my empty glass. "Feeling better, Dad?" "Much." I settled into my chair, noting how Derek's jaw muscle twitched with impatience. "Now about that toast." "Yes." Sarah lifted her glass quickly. Too quickly. Wine sloshed dangerously close to the rim. "To new beginnings." "To family," Derek added, raising his own glass. I lifted my water glass. "To truth." Sarah's smile faltered. "Your wine, Dad." "Doctor's orders," I said apologetically. "One glass is my limit these days, but please don't let me stop you from enjoying yours." The silence stretched like a taut wire. Sarah held her glass but didn't drink. Derek's eyes darted between us, calculating. "It's a $3,000 bottle," he said finally. "Seems wasteful not to enjoy it." "Then by all means enjoy." I gestured to their glasses. "I get my pleasure from watching my family happy." Sarah brought the glass to her lips, then lowered it. "It's warm. The wine is too warm." "Nonsense," Derek snapped. "Just drink it." The sharpness in his voice made her flinch. She looked at him with something like hurt, then raised the glass again. This time she drank deeply, as if to prove something. Whether to him or to me, I couldn't tell. I watched my daughter drink her own poison and felt my heart break all over again. But I'd learned that sometimes you had to let people face the consequences of their choices. It was the only way they'd learn. "There," she said, setting down the half-empty glass. "Happy." Derek relaxed visibly. "Now we wait for the check and get you home, Ernest. You look tired." "I feel fine," I said. "Never better, actually." We made small talk about the food, the ambiance, the view. Sarah finished her wine and started on Derek's. Her cheeks flushed pink, which I attributed to alcohol until she began blinking rapidly. "Is it hot in here?" She fanned herself with her hand. "You're just excited," Derek said, but his voice carried a note of concern. Sarah swayed slightly in her chair. Her breathing became shallow, quick. Something's wrong." "Sarah." I leaned forward, genuine alarm, mixing with calculated performance. "What's happening?" "My chest." She pressed her hand against her sternum. "It's tight. I can't." The wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. The sound drew every eye in the restaurant. Sarah's body went rigid, then began convulsing. "Oh God, Sarah!" Derek caught her as she slipped from the chair. "Someone call an ambulance!" The restaurant erupted in controlled chaos. Waiters formed a barrier around us while the manager rushed over. Someone was already on the phone with emergency services. I knelt beside my daughter, cradling her head, feeling her body shake with seizures. Foam appeared at the corners of her mouth. Her eyes rolled back, showing only whites. Her breathing came in terrible, rattling gasps. What did she eat? A woman identifying herself as a doctor pushed through the crowd. Was she allergic to anything? Nothing. Derek said, his panic finally genuine. We all ate the same things, drank the same wine. The doctor's eyes sharpened. All of you from the same bottle? Yes, I confirmed, making my voice shake. Oh God, my baby girl, please help her. The paramedics arrived in minutes that felt like hours. They worked with professional efficiency, checking vitals, starting IVs, preparing for transport. One of them, a woman with kind eyes, looked at the wine glasses on the table. We'll need to test these, she said. This looks like poisoning. Poisoning. Derek's voice cracked. That's impossible. We all drank. Sir, we need to transport her now. They lifted Sarah onto a gurney. Who's riding with her? I said immediately. I'm her father. I'm coming too, Derek insisted. Only one person, the paramedic said firmly. You can follow in your car. I climbed into the ambulance holding Sarah's hand as they worked on her. Her skin felt clammy cold. The monitors beeped frantically. One paramedic spoke rapidly into his radio using medical terms I didn't understand. Organophosphate poisoning looks like, he told his partner. Classic presentation. How much did she drink? Most of a glass, I said. Maybe more. Lucky we caught it in time. Another 10 minutes. He didn't finish the sentence. At the hospital, they rushed Sarah into emergency treatment. I stood in the hallway watching through windows as doctors and nurses swarmed around her. Derek arrived 15 minutes later, disheveled and breathing hard. Where is she? Is she okay? What happened? They're treating her, I said. They think it's poisoning. But how we were all together. We all... His voice trailed off as the implications hit him. Your glass. You didn't drink from your glass. I met his eyes steadily. I guess I'm just a lucky old man. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You switched them. You switched the glasses. That's a serious accusation, I said mildly. Are you saying my glass was poisoned? Who would do such a thing? His face went through a series of expressions. Rage, fear, calculation. Finally, he stepped back, pulling out his phone. I need to make some calls. He walked to the far end of the corridor, but hospitals have strange acoustics. His whispered conversation carried clearly. No, the old man's fine. It's Sarah. I don't know how... Yes, I'll handle it. The power of attorney papers are signed. Once she's stable, we proceed with Plan B. Nancy, just be ready. The commitment papers are still valid for 48 hours. No, he doesn't suspect anything. He thinks it was meant for him. I memorized every word while pretending to read a magazine. Plan B. Nancy. Commitment papers. The pieces of their conspiracy were falling into place. A doctor emerged from Sarah's room, looking tired but satisfied. Mr. Fitzgerald, your daughter's going to be fine. We've administered the antidote and pumped her stomach. She's lucky you got her here so quickly. Thank God. The relief in my voice was genuine. Despite everything, she was still my daughter. The police will want to speak with everyone, the doctor continued. This type of poisoning, it's not accidental. Someone wanted to hurt your family. Derek appeared at my shoulder. This is insane. We need lawyers. Ernest, you shouldn't talk to anyone without representation. Why, I asked innocently. I have nothing to hide. Do you... His smile was all teeth, no warmth. A predator realizing the trap was closing but not sure how to escape. Of course not. I'm just protecting our interests. Our interests, as if poisoning me was a family business decision. Mr. Fitzgerald. A woman's voice interrupted. I'm Detective Monica Hartley. I understand there's been an incident. She was younger than I'd expected, with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She took in Derek's defensive posture, my calm demeanor, the distance between us that spoke volumes. My daughter was poisoned, I said simply, at Le Bernardin, during a celebration dinner. I'll need to speak with each of you separately, Detective Hartley said. "Mr. Matthews, please wait over there. Mr. Fitzgerald, can we start with you?" As she led me to a quiet corner, I saw Derek pull out his phone again. Whatever Plan B was, it was already in motion. But I had plans of my own, and 40 years of business had taught me that the best defense was always a carefully orchestrated offense. Detective Hartley had the kind of eyes that had seen too much but still held compassion. She guided me to a small consultation room and closed the door, muffling the chaos of the emergency department. "Mr. Fitzgerald, I need you to walk me through everything that happened tonight. Don't leave out any details, no matter how small they might seem." I gave her the official version. The celebration dinner, the expensive wine, Sarah's sudden illness. I mentioned nothing about switched glasses or overheard warnings. Let them think I was just a confused old man who'd nearly lost his daughter. "Has your family received any threats recently?" she asked, taking notes in a small notebook. "Anyone who might want to hurt you." "I just sold my company for a substantial sum," I said carefully. "That kind of money can bring out the worst in people." She looked up sharply. "How substantial?" $74 million. Her pen stopped moving. That's certainly motive for someone. Who knew about the sale? The buyer's lawyer's my CFO, and family, of course. Of course. She made another note. "I'll need a list of everyone with access to your table tonight. Waitstaff, other diners, anyone who could have tampered with the wine." A knock interrupted us. An officer entered, whispered something in her ear. Her expression darkened. "Excuse me for a moment, Mr. Fitzgerald." She left me alone with my thoughts. Through the small window, I could see Derek pacing phone pressed to his ear. His agitation was growing with each call. The door opened again, but instead of Detective Hartley, a young man slipped inside. Thomas, the waiter who'd warned me. He looked terrified, but determined. "Mr. Fitzgerald, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't be here, but I had to find you. How did you—" "My cousin works in the hospital kitchen. Listen, I have something you need to see." He pulled out a flash drive, pressing it into my hand. "Security footage from the restaurant. The past month. I've been watching your son-in-law meet with someone. A woman. They talk about insurance policies, medical documents. Why would you record this?" His voice broke slightly. "My grandfather died 8 months ago. Heart attack at a family dinner. But I knew something was wrong. He was healthy, strong. Then I saw the same woman meeting with his grandson a week before he died. When I saw her with your son-in-law—" "What woman?" "I don't know her name. Blonde, maybe 40. She always carries medical files. They meet every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Table 12 in the back corner." Detective Hartley returned before I could ask more questions. Thomas straightened, pulling on his professional mask. "Just checking if Mr. Fitzgerald needed anything," he said smoothly. "Water, coffee." "That's kind," she said, but her eyes were suspicious. "We're fine, thank you." After Thomas left, she sat back down. "Anonymous tip came in about the poisoning. Someone claims they witnessed it happen. We're pulling security footage from the restaurant now." My heart raced, but I kept my expression neutral. "Good. That should show what happened. Mr. Fitzgerald, I need to ask some difficult questions. How would you characterize your relationship with your daughter?" "We were close once, less so since she married Derek." "And Mr. Matthews, what's your opinion of him?" I chose my words carefully. "He's not the man I would have chosen for her. Has he ever asked you for money, pressured you about your estate?" "Both of them have been interested in my financial situation recently." She leaned forward. "Interested how—" Before I could answer, a commotion erupted in the hallway. Through the window, I saw Derek arguing with a doctor, his face red with anger. A security guard moved closer. "Excuse me again," Detective Hartley said, irritation flashing across her features. The moment she left, I plugged Thomas's flash drive into my phone, using an adapter I always carried. The files opened immediately. Dozens of video clips, all dated and organized. I clicked on the most recent. Derek sat at a corner table with a blonde woman in a nurse's uniform. Their heads were close together, intimate. She handed him a small bottle which he quickly pocketed. Their conversation was inaudible, but their body language spoke volumes. This wasn't a business meeting. I scrolled through more clips. The same woman, the same table going back 3 months. In one, Derek showed her documents that looked like medical forms. In another, she demonstrated something with her hands, a gesture that looked like inserting an IV. "Mr. Fitzgerald." I quickly pocketed the phone as a doctor entered. Patricia Stone, according to her badge head of toxicology. "I wanted to update you on your daughter's condition. She ingested a significant dose of ethylene glycol mixed with ricin. It's a sophisticated poison, not something you'd accidentally encounter." "Will she recover?" "Physically, yes. We caught it in time. But..." She paused, choosing her words. "There may be cognitive effects, memory loss, confusion. The brain doesn't always fully recover from this type of poisoning." She seemed confused when she woke up briefly. Dr. Stone continued. "Kept asking about insurance papers, saying something about he promised it would be painless. We assumed it was the toxins talking." My blood chilled. "What else did she say?" "Nothing coherent. But Mr. Fitzgerald, this poison, it's not easy to obtain. It requires connections knowledge. Whoever did this has medical training or access to someone who does." After she left, I made a decision. From my phone, I searched for private investigators in the area. Jake Morrison's name came up repeatedly, former FBI specializing in financial crimes. I called his emergency number. "Mr. Morrison, this is Ernest Fitzgerald. I need your help tonight. Price is no object." "I'm listening." "My son-in-law just tried to murder me. He poisoned my daughter by mistake. I need everything you can find on Derek Matthews, and I need it yesterday." Derek Matthews. There was a pause. "Give me 20 minutes, and Mr. Fitzgerald, don't go home tonight. If they failed once, they'll try again." I found Derek in the waiting room, slumped in a chair with his head in his hands. The perfect picture of a grieving husband. He looked up as I approached, and for a moment I saw something cold flicker in his eyes before the mask of concern returned. "Ernest, thank God. Any news?" "She's stable," I said, sitting beside him. "The doctors are optimistic." "I can't believe this happened. Who would do such a thing?" I studied his face, this man who'd invaded my family like a cancer. "I've been wondering the same thing. Detective Hartley seems very thorough. I'm sure she'll find answers." His jaw tightened. "We should be careful what we say to her. Sometimes investigations can go in wrong directions. Innocent people get hurt." "Innocent people already got hurt," I reminded him. "My daughter almost died." "Our daughter," he corrected. "She's my wife, Ernest. My responsibility." "Your responsibility." I let the words hang between us. "Tell me, Derek, how well do you handle responsibility?" Before he could answer, my phone buzzed. Jake Morrison texting an address. "Come alone. Urgent." "I need some air," I told Derek. "Call me if anything changes." Outside, the night was cool and clear. I took a taxi to the address Morrison had sent, a small office building in the financial district. He met me in the lobby, a compact man with sharp eyes and prematurely gray hair. "Mr. Fitzgerald, what I'm about to show you is going to be difficult." He led me to his office walls covered with monitors and white boards. On the center screen was a photograph of Derek, but the name underneath read Daniel Kowalski. "Your son-in-law doesn't exist," Morrison said bluntly. "Derek Matthews is an identity he created 3 years ago. Before that, he was Daniel Kowalski, married to a woman named Patricia Brennan in Chicago. She died of a heart attack at 32. Inherited $4 million from her father 6 months before her death. Murder. Officially natural causes. But Daniel disappeared right after the funeral, along with the inheritance. 2 years later, Derek Matthews appears in Boston Mary's Jennifer Chen. She died in a car accident 14 months after the wedding. Her brake lines were cut, but it was ruled inconclusive. She'd just inherited her family's restaurant chain. "How many?" "2 confirmed marriages before your daughter. Both women died within 2 years. Both had recently come into money." He pulled up another photo, the blonde woman from the restaurant videos. This is Nancy Walsh. Registered nurse lost her license 5 years ago for stealing medications. She's been linked to both previous deaths. They're a team. More than that. Morrison clicked to another document. They're lovers. Have been for years. The marriages are just business. Your daughter was supposed to be the big score. 74 million is more than both previous takes combined. I stared at the evidence of my daughter's doom, laid out like a business plan. What about the psychiatric commitment papers Derek mentioned? Morrison's expression darkened. I was getting to that. Dr. Marcus Vaughn, psychiatrist at Riverside Behavioral Center. He's been pre-signing commitment papers for elderly patients. Once you're inside, Nancy's colleagues take over. Patients become compliant very quickly. Sign whatever's put in front of them. How long has this been happening? At least 3 years. 16 elderly patients, all wealthy, all committed by family members. All died within 6 months of admission. Died. Heart failure, strokes, accidents. Nothing suspicious individually, but the pattern. He shrugged. Your son-in-law found himself a perfect system. Marry money, eliminate the source, move on. You were supposed to go quietly tonight. When that failed, plan B was involuntary commitment. Can you prove this? I can prove enough to start a real investigation. But Mr. Fitzgerald, these people are desperate now. Their plan failed and they know you're suspicious. They'll either run or try something more direct. I thought about Sarah lying in a hospital bed because of my switched glasses. She'd been willing to poison me, but did she know the full scope of Derek's history? Was she victim or accomplice? What do you recommend? Morrison smiled grimly. Set a trap. Let them think they're winning while we build an airtight case. Can you play the part of a confused old man for a few more days? I've been playing it all night. Then let's discuss how to end this performance with the finale they deserve. As we planned, my phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Sarah's awake. She's asking for you. Come quickly. I showed Morrison the message. His expression was grim. Be careful. This could be legitimate, or it could be them accelerating their timeline. Either way, Mr. Fitzgerald, the real game starts now. I stood to leave, feeling every one of my 65 years, but also feeling something else. The same determination that had built a trucking empire from nothing. Derek Matthews, or whatever his name was, had made a crucial error. He'd underestimated me, seeing only an old man with money. He was about to learn why I'd survived 40 years in one of the most cutthroat industries in America. The Silent Wolf, as Thomas had unknowingly named me, was about to show his teeth. The hospital corridor seemed longer on the return journey. Each step carried the weight of Morrison's revelations. 2 dead wives, 16 elderly victims. My Sarah had married a serial killer who specialized in inheritance. Outside her room, Derek paced with predatory energy. His mask of concern slipped for just a moment when he saw me revealing something hungry underneath. She's been asking for you, he said. Keep saying something about papers. The doctors think it's the poison affecting her memory. Through the window, I could see Sarah propped up in bed, looking pale and fragile. An IV dripped steady medication into her arm. Her eyes were closed, but her lips moved constantly, as if arguing with invisible voices. Has she said anything else? Nothing coherent. Derek's hand landed on my shoulder, possessive and controlling. Ernest, we need to talk about her care. The doctors say she might need extended treatment, specialized facilities. One step at a time, I said, shrugging off his grip. Let me see my daughter. Sarah's eyes fluttered open as I entered. For a moment they were clear focused, filled with something that might have been recognition, or might have been fear. Dad, I'm here, sweetheart. Her hand clutched mine with surprising strength. The papers. I signed papers. Shh, just rest now. No. Her voice rose, urgent. He said, Derek said you were sick. Said we needed to protect. Her face contorted in confusion. But that's not right. You're not sick. Why did I think you were sick? Derek appeared at my elbow. The poison is making her delusional. Sarah, honey, you need to rest. She looked at him with unfocused eyes. You promised it would be painless. You said he wouldn't suffer. The room went very still. Derek's smile froze in place while my heart cracked a little more. Confirmation from her own lips. She doesn't know what she's saying, Derek said quickly. The doctors warned us about hallucinations. Did they? I kept my voice level. How fortunate you were here to hear their warnings. A nurse entered, checking monitors and making notes. Derek used the interruption to lean close to Sarah, whispering something that made her face crumple. When the nurse left, my daughter was crying silently. I think we should let her rest, Derek suggested firmly. Come on, Ernest. We need to discuss next steps. In the hallway, he steered me toward a quiet corner. His friendly facade had evaporated entirely. She's going to need specialized care, he said. I've already spoken with Dr. Vaughn at Riverside. They have an excellent program for recovery from traumatic poisoning. Riverside, the same facility Morrison had identified. That seems premature. Does it? His smile was sharp. Ernest, let's be honest. You're 65. You just watched your daughter almost die. The stress of selling your company, now this trauma. It would break anyone. No one would blame you for needing help processing it all. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts. You've been under enormous pressure. You forgot which glass was yours at dinner. You've been paranoid about your documents. Classic signs of stress-induced confusion. I see. I let him paint his picture. And you think I need help? We think, he emphasized the plural, that a few weeks of rest would do you good. Riverside has a wonderful elder care program. Voluntary admission, of course, just until you're feeling more yourself. The threat hung between us like a blade. Volunteer for commitment or be forced into it. I'll consider it, I said mildly, after Sarah recovers. Of course. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression shifted. Actually, Ernest, why don't you go home and rest? I'll stay with Sarah tonight. We can talk more tomorrow. It wasn't a suggestion, but I played along the confused old man overwhelmed by the night's events. Perhaps you're right. I am tired. I'll have the valet bring your car around. I took a taxi. I'll call another. His eyes narrowed slightly. Nonsense. Derek will drive you. He was already texting someone. My friend Nancy is coming to sit with Sarah anyway. Medical background. She'll take excellent care of her. Nancy, the woman from the videos coming to care for my poisoned daughter. That's kind of her, I said. I'd like to meet her, thank her. Tomorrow, Derek said firmly. You need rest now. A car pulled up outside, not a taxi, but a black SUV with tinted windows. The driver didn't look like any ride-share employee I'd ever seen. More like private security, or private muscle. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, my lawyer is already on his way. Estate matters that can't wait. You understand? Derek's jaw tightened. At this hour, money never sleeps. I smiled apologetically. Tell Sarah I'll see her tomorrow. I walked away before he could object, texting Morrison as I moved. They're accelerating. Nancy Walsh coming to hospital now. Black SUV waiting outside. His response was immediate. Get somewhere safe. FBI contacted. Operation tomorrow. The hospital's main lobby was nearly empty at this hour. I found a security guard and struck up a conversation, making sure I was visible on cameras establishing my presence. Then I slipped out a side entrance where Morrison waited in an unmarked sedan. Your son-in-law just tried to kidnap you, he said as I climbed in. That SUV is registered to Riverside Behavioral. They were going to take you straight there. What about Sarah? I have someone watching her room. Nancy Walsh won't be able to do anything tonight. He pulled into traffic, constantly checking mirrors. We need to move fast. Can you get Derek to your house tomorrow? Why? Because that's where we're going to end this. FBI want him on tape discussing the murders, the poison, the commitment scheme. They need probable cause for warrants. And you want me to wear a wire? No. Morrison smiled. I want you to put on the performance of your lifetime. Be the confused old man they expect. Let them think they've won. Draw out their full plan. What about Sarah? His expression softened. That's your choice, Mr. Fitzgerald. She participated in attempted murder. But she's also a victim of manipulation. The prosecutors might be lenient if she cooperates. We drove to a safe house Morrison maintained a modest apartment downtown. He showed me the evidence he'd compiled. Financial records linking Derek to the dead wives. Medical records showing patterns at Riverside. Photos of Nancy Walsh entering victims' homes days before their deaths. This is what we have, he said. It's suggestive but not conclusive. We need them to incriminate themselves. When? Tomorrow afternoon. I'll have agents positioned around your estate. You invite Derek and Nancy for a family meeting about Sarah's care. Let them think you're ready to sign commitment papers. Draw out everything. And if they just kill me, Morrison's smile was cold. Then we'll have them for murder instead of attempted murder. But don't worry, we'll be watching every second. I spent the night reviewing the plan, memorizing my role. At dawn, Morrison drove me home to prepare. The estate felt different now, knowing it would soon be a stage for the final act. At 9 a.m., I called Derek. My voice shook with carefully calculated confusion. Derek, I've been thinking about what you said, about needing help. Maybe you're right. Ernest. He sounded cautious. Are you feeling all right? I'm scared. I admitted letting real emotion color the lie. Seeing Sarah like that, I don't trust my judgment anymore. Could you come by this afternoon? Bring that doctor you mentioned. Dr. Vaughn might be busy. Please. And that woman Nancy, I'd like to thank her for helping Sarah. A pause. I could practically hear him calculating. 3 o'clock. Perfect. We can discuss everything. Make sure Sarah gets the care she needs. Make sure we all do. After hanging up, I called James Patterson, my real lawyer. James, I need you to prepare some documents. Power of attorney forms. Make them look official but legally meaningless. Can you do that? Ernest, what are you planning? Justice, I said. The kind that comes with handcuffs. The rest of the morning was preparation. Morrison's team swept the house for surveillance devices Derek might have planted. They installed their own cameras and microphones. FBI agents positioned themselves in the pool house, the garage, the garden shed. Remember, Morrison coached, you're confused but not completely gone. Resist a little, then give in. Make them explain everything. The more they talk, the more they hang themselves. At 2:30, I took my position in the study. The fake power of attorney documents lay on my desk beside real ones I'd never sign. A glass of whiskey sat untouched beside them, liquid courage I didn't need. 40 years of business had led to this moment. Every negotiation, every crisis, every hard decision had been preparation for this final deal. Derek thought he was coming to claim victory. He was walking into a trap set by a man who'd spent 4 decades learning that the most dangerous predator was the one who looked like prey. At precisely 3 o'clock, Derek's Mercedes pulled into my driveway, followed by a white van with Riverside Behavioral Center emblazoned on its side. Through the study window, I watched Derek help Nancy Walsh from the passenger seat. She wore a conservative suit that screamed medical professional, carrying a leather portfolio that probably contained commitment papers already signed by the corrupt Dr. Vaughn. 2 orderlies stepped from the van built like nightclub bouncers with medical scrubs. They stayed by the vehicle smoking and chatting, but their eyes never left my front door. Derek had brought a full extraction team. I met them in the foyer, adding a tremor to my hands as I opened the door. Derek, Ms. Walsh, thank you for coming. Nancy extended a manicured hand. Mr. Fitzgerald, Derek's told me so much about you. I'm sorry about what happened to Sarah. Her grip was firm, professional. Up close, I could see the calculation in her eyes measuring me like a commodity. How long before I signed? How much trouble would I cause? Please come to the study. Can I offer you anything, coffee, something stronger? We're fine. Derek set his hand on my elbow, guiding me like an invalid. How are you feeling today, Ernest? You sounded upset on the phone. Confused. I admitted letting him steer me. I keep forgetting things. This morning I couldn't remember where I'd put the signed contracts from the sale. Derek and Nancy exchanged glances. Dollar signs might as well have flashed in their pupils. In the study, I'd arranged 3 chairs facing my desk, making it feel like an interview or an interrogation. They sat while I remained standing, gripping the desk edge as if for support. I've been thinking about what you said at the hospital, I began. About needing help. Maybe you're right. Maybe the stress has been too much. It's nothing to be ashamed of, Nancy said smoothly. Aging affects everyone differently. Add trauma like last night, and even the strongest mind can struggle. Is that what's happening to me? My mind is struggling. Derek leaned forward, oozing false sympathy. Ernest, we've noticed signs for months. The paranoia about your documents, forgetting conversations. Last night you couldn't even remember which wine glass was yours. That's true, I conceded. I've been so worried someone was trying to hurt me. Stupid, right? Not stupid, Nancy interjected, but possibly symptomatic. Paranoid ideation is common in early-stage cognitive decline. The mind creates threats where none exist. But someone did poison the wine. Yes, Derek said carefully. The police think it was random. A disgruntled employee, maybe. Wrong place, wrong time. The important thing is protecting you going forward. I let my shoulders slump. I just want Sarah to be okay. I want to make sure she's taken care of. That's why we're here. Nancy opened her portfolio, revealing official-looking documents. Riverside has an excellent program. Voluntary admission, of course, just until you're feeling more stable. And Sarah? I'll handle everything, Derek assured me. The business, the estate, Sarah's medical care. You can focus on getting better. I picked up the commitment papers, pretending to struggle with the small print. This says 90 days minimum. Standard procedure, Nancy said. Recovery takes time, but with proper medication and therapy, many patients improve dramatically. Medication. I looked between them, playing confused. What kind of medication? Nothing serious, just something to help with the confusion, the paranoia. You'll feel like yourself again. I set the papers down, moving to the fake power of attorney documents. And these, just temporary, Derek said quickly. Someone needs to manage things while you're recovering. Pay bills, handle the estate, make sure Sarah gets the best care. But I have lawyers. Who you don't trust anymore, he reminded me. You said so yourself. You think people are after your money. That's the paranoia talking, Ernest. I nodded slowly, then shook my head. I don't know. This feels wrong. Signing everything over. Derek's mask slipped slightly. It's what's best for everyone. Sarah needs treatment, extended care, specialized facilities. That costs money. How much? Does it matter it's your daughter? Of course. I picked up the pen, then set it down. But I should know what I'm signing. My whole life is in these papers. Nancy stood moving behind me. I felt her presence like a threat. Mr. Fitzgerald, I understand this is difficult. Change always is. But Derek loves Sarah. He wants what's best for both of you. Does he? I turned to face her. Tell me, Miss Walsh, how long have you known Derek? She didn't miss a beat. We met through medical circles. I've consulted on several cases he's been involved with. Cases like Patricia Brennan, Jennifer Chen. The room went very still. Derek's face darkened, while Nancy's remained carefully neutral. I don't know those names, she said. No, they were Derek's previous wives. Both died young. Both had just inherited money. Ernest. Derek's voice carried warning. You're having an episode. This paranoia, these delusions. Is it paranoid if it's true? I pulled out my phone, showing them a photo Morrison had provided. This is you, Nancy, entering Patricia Brennan's house 2 days before she died, and here visiting Jennifer Chen the week of her accident." Nancy's composure cracked. "Where did you get these—" "Does it matter?" I echoed Derek's earlier words. "The point is, I know who you are. Both of you. Daniel Kowalski and his angel of death." Derek stood abruptly. "You're confused, sick. No one will believe these ravings." "Maybe not, but they'll believe this." I played the audio from Thomas's flash drive. Derek's voice filled the room. "The old man's fine. It's Sarah. The power of attorney papers are signed. Nancy, just be ready." "You recorded me!" His face flushed with rage. "Actually, the restaurant did. Amazing what security cameras catch these days." Derek stepped toward me, fists clenched. Nancy caught his arm. "Not here," she hissed. Then louder. "Mr. Fitzgerald, you're clearly having a psychotic break. These delusions, this paranoia. You need immediate help." She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the team. We need to transport him now." "For his own safety." Derek added his smile, sharp as a blade. "Who knows what he might do in this state? He could hurt himself. Fall down some stairs." The threat was clear. Come quietly or suffer an accident. "I don't think so," I said calmly. "You see, I did switch the wine glasses last night. I poisoned my own daughter to save my life. What kind of man does that make me?" "A survivor," Nancy said coldly, "but not for long." The study door burst open. Not the orderlies, but FBI agents in tactical gear. "Nobody move hands where we can see them." Derek spun toward the window, but found more agents already positioned outside. Nancy dropped her phone, calculating her odds. "Nancy Walsh, Derek Matthews, you're under arrest for attempted murder conspiracy to commit murder fraud." The list of charges continued as they were cuffed. Derek's face cycled through rage, disbelief, and finally cold fury. "You set us up," he snarled. "You knew everything." "I'm a businessman," I replied. "I always do my due diligence." "Sarah knew," Nancy shouted as they dragged her towards the door. "She knew everything. She helped plan it all. She's the one who suggested the poison." My heart, already cracked, shattered completely, but I kept my face neutral. Business face. "Then she'll face justice too." Detective Hartley entered as they were removed, looking satisfied but tired. "Mr. Fitzgerald will need a full statement. The recordings are good, but your testimony will seal it." "What about the psychiatric facility?" "The other victims?" "Teams are already there. Dr. Vaughn is in custody. We're reviewing every patient admission for the last 5 years." She paused. "Your daughter wants to see you. She's cooperating fully." "Is she—" "She claims Derek manipulated her. Says he convinced her you were showing signs of dementia, that the poison was just meant to make you compliant for commitment." Hartley's expression suggested skepticism. "That's for a jury to decide." After they left, I stood in my empty study surrounded by the props of our fatal play. The unsigned papers, the untouched whiskey, the photos of a life built on trust, now revealed as illusion. Morrison found me there an hour later. "You did good, Ernest. They'll both go away for life." "And Sarah?" "Depends on her testimony. Her lawyer's already negotiating. She might get 10 years out in 5 with good behavior." 5 years. My daughter would lose 5 years of her life because she'd tried to take all of mine. "There's something else," Morrison said gently. "We found Derek's real records. He's been married 4 times, not 3. The first wife survived barely. She's been in hiding for years. She wants to thank you for stopping him." "Tell her she's welcome," I said numbly. "Tell her I'm sorry it took so long." Morrison left me with my thoughts and my empty house. Tomorrow would bring lawyers' statements media attention. The story of the millionaire who trapped his would-be killers would make headlines. But tonight, I was just a father mourning the daughter I'd thought I knew. The little girl who'd cried over a goldfish had grown into a woman who'd pour poison in her father's wine. Somewhere along the way, I'd lost her, and no amount of justice would bring her back. The whiskey sat untouched on my desk. I'd survived assassination, but part of me had died anyway. The part that trusted. The part that believed love was stronger than greed. Outside the orderly's van still sat in my driveway, abandoned in the chaos of arrests. Tomorrow I'd have it towed. Tonight it served as a monument to how close I'd come to disappearing into Riverside's medical nightmare. I'd won. So why did victory taste like ashes? 6 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan, watching Derek take the stand in orange jumpsuit and shackles. The man who'd once worn $3,000 suits now looked like what he'd always been, underneath a common predator caught in his own trap. The prosecutor, a sharp young woman named Melissa Park, laid out the evidence methodically. 4 dead wives across 3 identities, 16 elderly victims at Riverside, financial fraud exceeding $30 million. The security footage from Le Bernardin played on screens throughout the courtroom, showing Sarah pouring poison into my wine with practiced ease. Derek tried to maintain his salesman's charm, but federal prison had worn away his polish. When asked about the murders, he pointed at Nancy, claiming she'd masterminded everything. Nancy in turn produced recordings of Derek planning each death. Their partnership dissolved into mutual destruction, each racing to betray the other first. Mr. Kowalski. Prosecutor Park used his real name deliberately. Can you explain why you had commitment papers for Mr. Fitzgerald already signed by Dr. Vaughn, dated before the poisoning attempt? Derek's jaw worked silently. His lawyer objected was overruled. Finally, he spoke. It was Nancy's idea. She said the old man was showing signs. Signs you invented? Signs we interpreted. Interpreted. Is that what you called it when you murdered Patricia Brennan? Interpretation. The trial took 3 weeks. I testified for 2 days, recounting every detail from the warning to the switch to the final confrontation. When Derek's lawyer cross-examined me, trying to paint me as a paranoid old man who'd endangered his own daughter, I stayed calm. You switched wine glasses with your daughter knowing one was poisoned. I did. You could have killed her. They were trying to kill me. I chose to live. At any cost. At any cost, I confirmed. Just like Derek chose money at any cost. The difference is I was defending myself. He was hunting innocent people. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Life without parole for Derek, 40 years for Nancy. Dr. Vaughn got 25 years and lost his medical license. The orderlies and corrupt staff at Riverside faced their own trials. Sarah's case was harder to watch. She'd taken a plea deal testifying against Derek in exchange for reduced charges. On the stand, she wept as she described how he'd isolated her from friends, convinced her I was declining, made her believe she was protecting my legacy by taking control. He showed me videos of elderly people with dementia. She sobbed. Said that would be you in a year if we didn't act. Said the poison would just make you confused enough to sign papers, not hurt you. I was trying to save you from a worse fate. The prosecutor wasn't moved. You poured poison in your father's wine glass. You watched him raise it to his lips. What fate could be worse than murder? I wasn't thinking clearly. Derek had me so turned around. Clear enough to access his safe. Clear enough to photograph his will. Clear enough to transfer money from company accounts. Sarah broke down completely. When she looked at me from the witness stand, I saw my little girl again, terrified and lost. But I also saw the woman who'd chosen money over my life. She got 8 years eligible for parole in 5, with good behavior. When they led her away, she mouthed, "I'm sorry," to me. I nodded, but couldn't bring myself to say I forgave her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The aftermath was complex. The sale of my company had gone through, but now I had millions, and no one to share it with. I established the Margaret Fitzgerald Foundation for Elder Protection funding investigations into financial abuse. Robert, my loyal CFO, agreed to run it while I figured out my next chapter. Thomas, the waiter who'd saved my life, became an unexpected bright spot. I'd kept my promise about culinary school, and he invited me to his graduation. Standing in that auditorium, watching him receive his diploma, I felt something I hadn't experienced since Margaret died pride in someone else's achievement. "Mr. Fitzgerald," he found me after the ceremony. "I couldn't have done this without you. You saved my life, Thomas. Culinary school seemed like the least I could do." "You saved your own life," he corrected. "I just gave you information. You did the hard part." He introduced me to his girlfriend, Maria, and his parents, immigrants, who'd worked 3 jobs to give their son opportunities. They reminded me of Margaret and myself 40 years ago, hungry and determined. When Thomas mentioned struggling to find startup capital for a restaurant, I made a decision. "I'll back you," I said. "Full investment silent partner. You run it, I'll fund it." "Mr. Fitzgerald, I can't." "You can, and you will. But there's a condition. Once a month, you'll host a dinner for elderly people who've been victims of financial abuse. Give them a place to feel valued again." Thomas's restaurant, Second Chances, opened 8 months after the trial. The monthly dinners became so popular, we had to move to twice monthly, then weekly. I attended everyone hearing stories of betrayal and survival that echoed my own. At one dinner, I met Helen Cartwright, a widow whose son had tried to have her declared incompetent to steal her late husband's pension. She'd fought back, won, but lost her family in the process. "The money meant nothing," she said over Thomas's excellent bouillabaisse. "But discovering my own child saw me as an ATM instead of a mother, that broke something inside me." "I know," I said simply, and I did. We started having coffee after the dinners, then lunch on other days. Helen had been a teacher, spent her life shaping young minds. She had a warmth Margaret would have appreciated, a way of seeing the good in people without being naive about evil. "Your daughter was sick," she told me one evening 6 months into our friendship. "Not with cancer or pneumonia, but with greed. Derek infected her, and she didn't have the antibodies to fight it off." "That doesn't excuse what she did." "No," Helen agreed. "But it might explain it. And understanding isn't the same as forgiving. You can do one without the other." A year after the trial, I received a letter from federal prison. Sarah's handwriting shaky, but recognizable. "Dad, I know I have no right to contact you. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness or money or anything else. I just wanted you to know that I think about that night every day. Not because I'm in prison, but because I almost became a murderer. Derek is gone from my life forever." The divorce was finalized last month. I've been going to therapy trying to understand how I let him convince me that killing you was protecting you. The therapist says it's similar to how cult members can be persuaded to do terrible things. That doesn't excuse it, but it helps me understand it. "I'm so sorry, Dad. Not the kind of sorry that expects anything back, just the kind that needs to be said. You built a life from nothing, gave me everything, and I repaid you with poison. I'll carry that shame forever. I hope you're happy. I hope you found peace. I hope you're traveling to all those places you and Mom talked about. Most of all, I hope you know that the daughter who loved you, really loved you, is still in here somewhere. She's just lost under layers of terrible choices. Please don't feel obligated to respond. Just know that I'm getting help, really working on myself, and trying to become someone who deserves to be your daughter again, even if that day never comes. With love and sorrow, Sarah." I read the letter 3 times, then showed it to Helen. She held my hand as I struggled with emotions I'd buried under business decisions and legal proceedings. "What do I do?" I asked. "Whatever feels right," she said. "There's no handbook for this." I didn't write back immediately. Instead, I spoke with Sarah's therapist, verified she was actually attending sessions, checked her prison record. Model inmate, taking college courses, teaching literacy to other prisoners. 3 months later, I visited. The woman across the reinforced glass looked like my daughter, but carried herself differently. The entitled princess was gone, replaced by someone humbler, sadder, maybe wiser. "Hi, Dad." "Hello, Sarah." We sat in silence for a moment, then both started speaking at once. We laughed, a broken sound, but real. "You look good," she said. "Healthier." "Prison food must agree with you," I replied. "You've lost the designer pallor." She smiled ruefully. "Turns out I can survive without $500 face cream. Who knew?" We talked carefully at first, then more naturally. About the trial, the prison, the therapy, about Margaret and how much we both missed her, about the business and the foundation. I told her about Thomas's restaurant, and her face lit up with genuine pleasure. "He saved you," she said. "I'm glad you're helping him." "He gave me a chance to save myself," I corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" She leaned forward. "Dad, I need you to know something. That night when I poured the poison, part of me was screaming to stop. But Derek had me so convinced you were declining that this was mercy." "Sarah." "No, please let me finish. I'm not making excuses. I chose to listen to him instead of my conscience. I chose money over my father. That's on me forever. But I want you to know that the daughter who loved you was screaming inside the whole time. She just wasn't strong enough to win. And now I'm trying to make her stronger, to be the person you and Mom raised, not the one Derek created." She touched the glass between us. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to see that I'm trying." I visited monthly after that. Slowly, carefully, we began rebuilding something. Not the relationship we'd had. That was gone forever, another casualty of Derek's poison. But something new built on truth instead of assumptions. Helen came with me sometimes. She and Sarah developed their own connection teacher and student, both women, who'd learned hard lessons about trust and family. 2 years into her sentence, Sarah was approved for a prison education program. She chose accounting not to follow my footsteps, but to understand how Derek had manipulated finances to enable crimes. "I want to help people protect themselves," she explained during one visit. "Maybe work with your foundation someday if you'd have me. Use what I learned from him to stop others like him." "We'll see," I said, but I was already considering it. Meanwhile, life outside moved forward. Thomas's restaurant thrived. His monthly dinners for elder abuse survivors became a movement spreading to other cities. He named a dish after me. Ernest's Revenge, a deceptively simple soup that packed unexpected heat. "Because you looked harmless but burned them in the end," he explained with a grin. Helen and I grew closer. Not a replacement for Margaret, no one could be that, but something new and precious. She moved into the estate after a year of courtship, filling empty rooms with laughter and life again. "Margaret would have liked you," I told her one evening as we watched the sunset from the garden. "I hope so," she said. "I like to think she'd approve of us finding happiness after so much pain." On the 5th anniversary of the poisoning attempt, I held a special dinner at Thomas's restaurant. Survivors, advocates, investigators who'd worked the case. Detective Hartley came now, Captain Hartley, having used the Riverside scandal to reform elder care oversight. Jake Morrison attended still-running investigations, but focusing more on protection than prosecution. He'd become a friend, someone who understood the particular betrayal of family turning predator. "You changed things," he told me. "Your case led to new laws, better oversight. Hundreds of elderly people are safer because you fought back." "I just switched wine glasses," I said. "No," he disagreed. "You chose to live. Then you chose to make that choice matter." During dinner, I stood to make a toast. The room quieted, faces turning toward me with warmth and respect. 5 years ago, someone I trusted tried to kill me for money, I began. They failed, but they succeeded in killing something else. My naive belief that love always conquers greed. For a while, I thought that made me poorer than losing any fortune could. I looked around the room at Thomas and Maria Helen's encouraging smile, Morrison's knowing nod. But I was wrong. Losing naive trust didn't make me poorer. It made me wiser. Wiser about who deserves trust. Wiser about the difference between real love and performed affection. Wiser about the strength it takes to remain open after betrayal. I raised my glass of water. I never drank wine anymore. So here's to wisdom earned the hard way, to second chances and the courage to take them, to the family we choose after the family we're born to disappoints us, and to the beautiful truth that sometimes switching glasses doesn't just save your life, it shows you what life is really worth. The toast was warmly received, glasses clinking throughout the room. But the evening's surprises weren't done. Thomas stood next, tapping his glass for attention. Mr. Fitzgerald gave me a chance when I was just a scared waiter who spoke up. But I need to tell you all something. The night I warned him, I almost didn't. I was terrified of losing my job, of getting involved. What made me speak up was remembering my grandfather's last words, "Evil prospers when good people stay silent." He looked directly at me. "You could have drunk that wine, Mr. Fitzgerald. You could have run when I warned you. Instead, you stayed and fought. You showed me that goodness isn't just about speaking up. It's about standing up even when standing up puts you at risk." The evening continued with story after story of survival, recovery, and resilience. By the end, I felt something I hadn't experienced since before Margaret's death complete. Not perfect, not without scars, but whole in a way that accepted the breaks while celebrating the healing. Later, as Helen and I drove home, she asked, "Do you ever regret selling the company? You could have kept building your empire." "I built the only empire that mattered," I said, thinking of the foundation, the restaurant, the lives touched by our work. Margaret always said to make the sacrifice worth something. It just took me a while to understand what something meant. And Sarah, I considered carefully. She has 3 more years. When she gets out, we'll see who she's become. The foundation might have a place for someone who understands how predators work from the inside. Or maybe she'll need to build her own path to redemption. Either way, I'll be watching, hoping, but never again blind. That night, I stood in my study where the confrontation had happened. The room had been redecorated, Helen's touches softening its corporate edges. But sometimes I could still see Derek's rage, Nancy's calculation, the FBI bursting through the door. A photo on my desk showed Margaret and me on our wedding day, young and fearless. Next to it, a newer photo, Helen and me at Thomas's restaurant, opening older, but still smiling. Between them, a small framed note in Sarah's childhood handwriting, "I love you, Daddy. Thank you for showing me right from wrong." She'd written it for Father's Day when she was 8. I'd found it in the safe next to the documents she'd photographed while planning my murder. The irony was sharp enough to cut, but I kept it visible anyway. A reminder that people contain multitudes, that good and evil can exist in the same heart, and that choosing which one wins is a daily decision. My phone buzzed with a text from the prison. Sarah had passed her accounting certification exam, top of her class. I smiled despite myself. Maybe there was hope for her yet. Or maybe hope was just another trap, and I was still too much of a father to avoid it. But that was tomorrow's worry. Tonight, I had Helen waiting upstairs, Thomas's latest menu to review for next month's Survivor dinner, and a foundation board meeting in the morning. I had a life rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal, stronger at the broken places. Derek was serving life in federal prison, no longer able to hunt the vulnerable. Nancy was locked away, her medical knowledge useless behind bars. Dr. Vaughn faced daily lawsuits from victims' families. The corrupt orderlies and staff scattered to the wind, their racket destroyed. And me, I was Ernest William Fitzgerald, survivor. Not victim, survivor. There's a difference, and it took switching wine glasses with my would-be killer to learn it. As I turned off the study lights, I paused at the door. "Thank you, Margaret," I whispered to the darkness, "for believing in me when I had nothing, for giving me the strength to fight when I had everything, for teaching me that real wealth isn't what you can count. It's who you can count on." The house settled around me, peaceful in its emptiness. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to help those who'd been betrayed by the people they trusted most. But tonight, I was content. I'd sold my business for $74 million and nearly died for it. But in losing my naivety, I'd gained something priceless, the wisdom to know that the best revenge isn't just surviving those who try to destroy you. It's thriving despite them building something better from the wreckage, and proving that while greed might poison wine, it can never poison a life lived with purpose, courage, and carefully earned trust. The silent wolf had shown his teeth and won. Now it was time to use that victory to protect others from the predators, still hunting in the darkness, wearing the masks of family and friendship, carrying poison in their smiles. After all, someone had to stand guard. Might as well be someone who'd already switched the glasses and lived to tell the tale. If this story touched your heart, or reminded you of the importance of staying vigilant with those you trust, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you or someone you know ever faced betrayal from within your own family? How did you overcome it? If you found value in this story, please hit the like button and share it with others who might need to hear this message of survival and hope. And don't forget to subscribe to hear more stories of resilience, redemption, and the triumph of the human spirit over those who would prey upon our trust. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May you always have the wisdom to see the poison before you drink the courage to switch the glasses when needed, and the strength to rebuild something beautiful from the ashes of betrayal. Until next time, stay strong, stay wise, and remember, sometimes the greatest victory is simply refusing to be a victim.